Hello, welcome to another video where today I'm going to be looking at the beauty of using kneeling exercises to regress movements where maybe there's injury or maybe there's instability present or maybe even weakness. And these are actually very tricky exercises that many people underestimate. And this first one isn't a good example of where it just looks like such a simple drill, but once we sort of take so basically what you're doing here, and we've done this exercise before as a one-off video, but it's sort of in context here, it makes a lot more sense. So basically we call this an inline lunge, so he's trying to get this foot right in front of the knee here. By narrowing his support, that creates like a huge amount of instability in the frontal plane where he's going to be moving side to side. So these are the problems we see a lot in single leg stance and even the lunge stance itself, which is what this looks like. Once you put the hands behind the head, it takes away a lot of that ability to use your hands to create the stability that you're lacking. The third part is where you close your eyes, and you can see Nathan's closed his eyes here, and you'll see a lot more instability come out as a result. That's where he's really learning to use his trunk and not his hips to do it. So this exercise beats planks and crunches and anything that's abdominal related, hands down, for that reason, because you're using it in its reflex method. Moving on to like a rotational one, this is where we've removed the legs entirely from the movement, and we're regressing the movement so they can focus on really, in this case, keeping the arms straight. So a lot of people with weakness in the trunk will use their arms more by bending the elbow, and then they can push the movement instead of using their trunk to pull it. By removing so many of the factors of the legs and the coordination and the timing, they can really focus on this. And you can see how Mel had a little bit of a shift then, and we want to sort of see, watch just as she goes to, I'll take it back, hang on. I see just as she goes to pull, there'll be like a little bit, that little shift. We want to try and remove that, all right, and really keep it really still. So after so we could keep working in that, or we could take her to the next stage where she can actually put the leg in front like the lunge stance, and really start to learn how to get the strength needed where she can't use the hips anymore. So this position's sort of stronger in some ways, but it's actually harder if you're really focused. So her goal is to stay dead still here. The mistake we'll see is the hip kicking out. So if the weight's too heavy on the stack, or you're just not strong enough, that's what you'll see. And you'll see just as so that's the easy part. It'll be here to try and drive it when you're in the weak part, and you'll see that shoulder sway and stuff like we saw with Nathan on the inline lunge before. So these exercises are great in preventing rotation. Another version is where we start to bring in like pushing movements. So this one is actually quite deceptively hard. Like you can't have too much weight on it because you feel like you're going to fall face forward. So this one is a great one for preventing shearing, so through the spine. If you can't actually resist the rotation, so it's coming through, you'll feel like clicking and clunking in your back there. So this one's a regression of like the standing versions, where you're trying to sort of get more stability, and just like the last one, we start to see you moving into that split stance position. The back foot on this one is crucial, so you'll see how Nathan has his foot and his toes sort of driving in. A real mistake we'll see with this is the person having their foot out like that. All right? And I might not tell them that and see what they do, see what their strategy is for it. And that's sort of telling me that this person's going to have trouble standing and they're going to be falling forward a lot. But a great regression of the standing one, a good one to use with people who are just don't quite have the stability or motor control to execute the standing movements effectively. So going from a horizontal push to more of a vertical push, and again we've used this one before. This one's quite a heavy load with Mel here. We've sort of put quite a big load to sort of try and expose any mistakes, and you'll see as she gets towards the end of these reps how she'll try to really jerk her body around to get the weight up there, and that's what you'll see a lot with people, when not necessarily when it's that heavy, it's just that they don't have the control and they're not really getting that full extension that they really need from their whole body where their hips are moving forward. If I just take that back a bit, So when she's here, you might see a lot of arching in the lower back, maybe even a crooked position where we want to have like a straight line from arm to hip. All right, and that's where the core is really working quite hard. Great exercise for the shoulder, this one too. So again, it's another good regression. And that, and by the way, that back foot again, you can sort of see Mel maybe needed to drive that in a bit more. That might have given her a bit more oomph with that. So don't underestimate that back foot. It's crucial on a lot of these movements. So moving forward to the last one that we might show you is a Turkish Getup, but without the actual standing part. So we might just use the first half of the Getup, which really has all of the best parts in it, to be honest, where you're really getting amazing in this position here. This is where he needed hip extension, and then he's also got shoulder stability here with a moving dumbbell, but he's also got shoulder stability with the other arm to create a stable base to be able to do anything. If any of those things don't work, he's not going to be able to get to that next stage. When he gets to here, this is where the hip on the moving leg has to have a great amount of mobility, or else you won't be able to get the knee down in position to be able to get to the next spot. All right, so when he gets to here, and then he's just getting to that point, and that's where we would normally stand up. But if we want to remove the standing up, to remove the leg strength component and just work on the first part, where really a lot of all those stability and mobility elements are more important to you, this is a great regression of the Getup that many people can still do. And they maybe could make mistakes, in not necessarily with a heavy load, but maybe a few mistakes might creep in, but it won't cost them big time. And this is an awesome exercise for core development, and really for some people the mobility restriction is probably the biggest issue here. So again, we see him on this other side, and there's his hip extension, so he needs a bit of glutes, and there's his hips rotating around, but he's still having to keep incredible stability through the shoulders, on both shoulders, and thoracic mobility as well. So that's the other thing. So there's some great exercises in a kneeling fashion. There's obviously a lot more that we could use, but these are some of the great ones you could use that encompass rotation, pushing in horizontal, vertical, and then even a multi-dimensional, multi-plane movement like the Getup here at the end. So the great exercise that you can use, and and I would encourage you to give them a go, and especially if you're injured, they'll really make a big difference. All right, so I hope you've enjoyed that video, and we'll see you on our next one.